Secondly, we need to recognize, I would say, that all data centers are not created equal. Some of them are going to be significant amounts of capacity, a gigawatt or more, coming online perhaps all at the same time, but others are going to be a bit intermittent in terms of their need for power or come online incrementally. So you need to differentiate and not just sort of think of data centers in a monolithic way.
And the biggest challenge is the extra power needed to fund the activity, to run the activity, to energize the activity. On top of it, if you take an average data center design compared to what was 5 years ago, the compute need per rack is 10 to 12 fold. For example, each rack used to be about 100 kilowatt. Now it's 110 kilowatt. 10 kilowatt before, now it's 110 kilowatt. 120 kilowatt is the demand per rack. So you can see because of the density of the computing and the ability to not tolerate any kind of loss of power, all of that leads to a power density that was unheard of. That is what leads to the actual magnitude of the demand.
The whole system really has to adapt to the speed. Traditionally, the regulators, I'll return to them here for just a second. The regulators have been able to receive from the utilities the costs that they have expended, for putting in place new facilities and approve or not in some cases, or maybe reduce the amount that the utilities could collect, generally approved if those expenses were approved in advance. But the luxury of being able to wait until the money is spent and then have the rates adjust is slipping away, if not gone. The regulators and the utilities are going to need to be now looking proactively at what the expenditure is going to be in the next year or two, because the you don't have as much time for the regulatory process to work its way through. Long hearings, these rate proceedings can sometimes last a year or two. And by that time, the costs that you might have been required to absorb to build out the system could be
at risk and what's being demanded. Everything needs its own addressable process, right? So power availability, power supply, power delivery, that is one aspect that needs serious look, right? Same thing goes with the water is the other naturally occurring resource that's needed. Whether it's even if you go all liquid for rack cooling, you still have area cooling and other processes that require lots of water. So the water is the other piece that requires serious planning, serious allocation, serious estimation, right? And then there's 3, 4 other things. One is I would consider the ability to project model the demand growth. What is it now? Why is it now this way? What is it likely to look like in a couple of years, 5 years or 7 years from now? That will decide ability to pre-plan some of these capacity constraints that we have today. Then there is this other human aspect, workforce for that area, mechanics, electricians, people who can do data center work, design, maintenance. I'm not sure if we are all fully ready to have the right amount of workforce ready and certified, ready to go to work. You might need a lot of retraining, a lot of incentive making through maybe Department of Labor. There's workforce piece as well. Just like cybersecurity had a big demand for people that are trained, cyber aware. It's going to need people that do this kind of work.
You can see that, right? Great. Sure. Okay. So what this shows is this is a projection by the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, or NERC, which is the entity tasked under FERC jurisdiction with maintaining and signaling the risks to reliability as we look out into the future. And it's pretty obvious just from the red that you can see they are projecting as of late last year that there are high risks in significant swaths of the country, including the region of what's called the PJM, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland area, which is the largest electricity market in the country, if not the world, large parts of the Midwest ISO, ERCOT, and out in the Northwest. And most of this risk to reliability is driven by the data center phenomenon.
And I would consider this to be a case of classic change management. So if you can draw a direct line of benefit from what's needed to what it'll mean for everybody. So if, let's say, compute capacity growth leads to better outcome economically, more GDP, more transactions, more stuff getting done faster, i.e. productivity, if you can cross map those benefits, it also means there's also incentives for creating innovation, better solutions, more innovative approaches, or utilization of spare capacity that may be sitting around. How do you get them from here to here? And then third part will be creating models to show benefit of planning, uh, the model of concurrent needs and how they can be met. Pretty much like how AI figures out something, right? If you give multiple factors, say, give me the best optimal solution, AI finds a solution for you, typically, right? Given best inputs available, can give you a recommended course of action. Probably we can put AI to work to also find better ways to do this and connect the benefits to what it means. So I would say that
Add a couple of points. The heating demand, the heat that's produced, which leads to the requirement for cooling, which is a lot of the water use in these facilities.
right,
The data center developers are also beginning to think more creatively about that. I mean, that heat can be used to to produce more electricity, right? You can siphon off that heat and use it to meet some of your on-site demand. So, that's also, I think, a way that they're looking at adapting.